On the afternoon of Wednesday, 4th of December, approximately 70 students occupied the management offices of the University of London at Senate House in Bloomsbury. By that evening, they had been evicted, almost certainly unlawfully, with the police making 4 arrests. The following day, at a protest opposing the presence of the police on university campuses generally, which in light of the previous evening's events now found particular focus on both the police, but also University of London management, another 38 arrests were made. It was the behaviour of the police and the arrest made on the second day which proved to be the catalyst for a Cops Off Campus demo, once more at Senate House, called to take place on Wednesday, the 11th of December. While police brutality and a clampdown on free association and assembly on campus has been well documented within the media, one must also recount the 10 demands of the original Senate House occupation. Some of these demands include that all outsourced workers receive pension entitlements equal to those in-house, that the pay ratio between the lowest and highest paid staff at university is no higher than 10 to 1, and that the management of the University of London makes a public statement opposing the privatisation of the student loan book.
Students so far have kind of been seen, I suppose, as the vanguard of resistance to austerity. So that was the case in 2010, that the student protests were really the kind of first of a wave of resistance against austerity. Perhaps as a result of that then, the government, the Metropolitan Police has wised up, thinks that the students are the ones to watch on campus, and they're probably looking at things like three-casters quite closely as a potential kind of microcosm for what could happen against austerity more broadly.
Well, I think what we've seen is about 2 or 3 years now of a failed neoliberal experiment. And what really inspires me about this is that we're not on defense anymore. You know, it's our chance to say, all right, you had your try, it didn't work. We need to move towards something else. And I think what things seem to be coalescing around is a call for a free university. It's telling that back when universities were considered autonomous institutions, which were about knowledge and understanding, it was understood that cops don't come on campus. These are not places where we'd resolve our disputes using violence. The market and violence always come together. You can't enforce this kind of vicious Hobbesian world they're trying to impose without also imposing a regime of force.
To inverse the logics of today's demo, you'd say that the neoliberal university requires cops on campus.
Absolutely, and that's why every place they've done that, state violence has followed.
As you can see, there are injunctions placed at all the major entry points to Senate House. It's not just data collection, it's not just attempted surveillance, it's not just trying to get informants at campuses across university, it's not just trying to intimidate protests by both students and support and teaching staff. There are also very concrete legal measures being taken by university management, such as injunctions, not just at the University of London, Birmingham, Sussex and elsewhere. A key component of the toolkit they're using to suppress dissent and inhibit free assembly.
I saw somebody taking pictures of students. Could you just clarify as to who that was and if intelligence is being shared with the Metropolitan Police?
I mean, you see now a couple of people have got bail conditions preventing them from gathering in more than groups of 4 outside in public spaces. You know, the effect we can have is like almost non-existent thanks to the ridiculous police force.
So we've just come now, I suppose, to what might be presumed, although we have yet to see, the climax of this Cops Off Campus demo. 2 major blocks have come and converged on the Royal Courts of Justice, where there's the ongoing inquest into the alleged execution of Mark Duggan by the Metropolitan Police. Security seem relatively calm, although these kinds of scenes aren't particularly usual here. We've got a territorial support group over here, we've got a lot of borough officers, probably not as many TSG as one would reasonably presume. I actually think the level of oversight with regards to today's operation, both here and on campus at the University of London, may actually have been coordinated by a relatively senior milieu of not just the police but also the Home Office, because this is well done and the police really are staying back. There are 19 vans at Holborn, very, very nearby as we know. Most of those yet to be deployed, so let's see what happens.
We're seeing the intersections out in the movement comprised out of an autonomous workers' struggle for Latin American cleaners, focusing heavily on outsourced workers, with a clear anti-police rhetoric and increasingly it's recognising the roles that gender, race and class play in those discriminations. And as such, I think the police would be quite accurate to suggest that this is a movement that really could generalise, and it's likely that they probably realise any antagonism towards this demonstration, any overt display of force or brutality that gives away the strength that belies the police's hand, could be incredibly triggering for widespread disturbances. We've seen this movement be organised autonomously, mainly on the hashtag Cops Off Campus on Twitter, and the police are probably well aware now that the galvanising effect that social media can play in dispersing a protest around the country. There's definitely an us and them mentality, I think, and I think that's common for a lot of young people now. The police are viewed inherently with hostility and suspicion. I've seen them over the years violently assault and beat many of my friends. I've seen evidence of much more of that happening in protests that I've been a part of. We see an increasing level of policing of protests at a level that I haven't seen before, but equally always very forceful, very antagonistic. We've seen the police sort of begin this process of mass arrests, which is a new tactic. This is backed up by what we're seeing in the courts as well, the ridiculousness of the sentences for many of the London rioters, the sort of political, sort of malicious attempt to deport Trenton Oldfield that he recently just had overturned. We're seeing this really virulent and sort of devastating crackdown on protest, and now increasingly I think there's a real consensus that the police are not on our side, and any bonds of trust that may have existed between the police and many of the communities present today no longer exist in any capacity.
Today's demonstration at its peak had around 2,000 participants, and the ideological default seemed to be one of anti-police, anti-privatisation, anti-outsourcing. Propositionally, that wasn't there in 2010, and it's new. What next? Well, between the 27th and the 29th of January, 3 COSAS, the IWGB here at Senate House, University of London, are going on a 3-day strike for that third COSAS, pensions, which they didn't win any concessions on last time. That's a 3-day strike. That was the struggle that animated much of this. Let's see where that takes it. On the same day as the end of that strike, on the 29th, we'll also be seeing a national assembly, including many of the protest organisers here today, talking about a demonstration like this, again, but bigger. If they can thicken existent networks between student activists, workers, both precarious and in the unions, UC, Unite and Unison, as well as beginning to formulate demands that have traction for the wider population, not just on issues of higher education, but also the police, data collection, public assembly, then we might be seeing something really interesting. Watch this space.